to KeyPay's video series on Single Touch Payroll. This is the second video in our series, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to create and lodge a pay event. At this point, you should already have your payroll file configured for reporting to the ATO for Single Touch Payroll. If not, you can go back to our first video, which will show you through the steps on how to get this all set up. Single Touch Payroll reporting requires you to lodge a pay event to the ATO each time you make a payment to an employee that is subject to withholding, and this needs to be done on or before the date that the payment is made. A pay event is reporting an employee's year-to-date figures. It will report things like gross earnings, any PAYG that's been withheld, allowances, deductions, and superannuation liabilities. Creating and lodging a pay event in KeyPay can only be done from the actual pay run. So what we'll do now is I'll go through and actually create and process a pay run and show you how the process works. From the payroll dashboard, you'll need to go to the top right-hand corner and click on the new pay run option and create your pay run as you normally would. This pay run includes a few different examples of the different types of data that's going to be reported to the ATO for Single Touch Payroll. For example, this second employee here, if we click on her name to expand her earnings, you can see here that she's got a travel allowance added to this pay run. This last employee has got a deduction for salary sacrifice to super. And then our third employee here, I'm going to actually terminate this employee so that I can show you what this looks like when the pay event is created. Once you're ready to complete the pay run, you can click on the Finalize Pay Run option. You'll get this pop-up screen like you normally would. You still have the options to configure the pay slips and the notifications, but you've also now got this option to lodge the pay run with the ATO. And you've got two choices. You can lodge the pay run manually at a later date, or you can lodge the pay run now. If you select lodge the pay run manually at a later date, you can then finalize the pay run, and this will follow the normal process. And then when you are ready to go back and lodge the pay run to the ATO, you'll just need to click on the pay run to open it, where you will see this option to lodge pay run with ATO. Then once you click on that option, the process will be the same as the one that I'm about to show you. So we'll click on Lodge Pay Run Now and then Finalize. So this will finalize the pay run as per the normal processes. But you'll then be redirected to the Create Pay Event Lodgement screen, which is what you can see here. On this screen, you'll have a list of all the employees that were included in that pay run and all their year-to-date payment details. So up the top here, you can see that this was a pay event. Fortnightly is the pay schedule frequency. You've also got the pay period ending date, and then you can see the financial year that this pay event is included in. Over the side here, you've got the option to go to the pay run. This will take you directly back to the pay run that this pay event was created from. Then you have these two tabs down here, Lodgement Details and Warnings tab. The Warnings tab will show you any potential issues that there may be with your pay event. All of the warnings that I've actually got in this pay event are due to invalid data because this is a test business. You can also see down the bottom here though, that one of the employees that was included in the pay run has now been excluded from the pay event due to invalid data. The reason is indicating that the tax file number recorded was invalid for this employee. In a moment, I'll show you how to fix that error and also include the employee back into the pay event. If we go back to the Lodgement Details tab, you can see here that it shows the status of the pay event, which is appearing as created. This status will change as you progress through the different steps. Down here, you can also filter the pay event. You can filter it by name or employing entity. You just need to be aware though that filtering your pay event has no effect on the information that will be reported and lodged to the ATO. All the data that originally populated the pay event will be lodged to the ATO regardless of the filter. You've then got the option to show the figures from this pay run. All these figures down here, like I said before, are all the employees' year-to-date figures. If you click on this option here, this will show you the figures from the actual pay run that was just created. So you can see here for this particular employee, this line here is all the year-to-date figures. And the line underneath are the figures from the pay run that this pay event was created from. Now just run through some of the details of the employee's data that's going to be included in this pay event. So you have the employee's name and the employing entity. You've got the total gross, which is inclusive of any gross payments, RESC, allowances and lump sums. You have the type of payment. So you can see here, this one is salary and wages. This is the gross payments. Then you also have the RESC, which is the reportable employer superannuation contributions. You have the SGC, which is the 9.5% super guarantee. Any allowances, any lump sums, and any tax withheld. So this is inclusive of any PAYG, SFSS, and help amounts. In the pay run, I'd showed you some specific examples of employees with different types of data that's going to be included in this pay event. So Emma was our employee that had an allowance included in her earnings, and you can see here that that allowance has been included in her figures. There was also an employee who had a salary sacrifice to super, so that you can see under RESC. So that's being reported under the RESC column there. The other employee of note was this employee here who was terminated in the pay run. And you can see here that the is final option has been ticked for this employee. So this is indicating that there'll be no further payments made for this employee in this financial year. All of the data across here, in all of these different fields up to here, cannot be changed. There's only two parts of the pay event that can be edited, and that's these last two options down here. So you've got the reportable fringe benefits amount. You can enter reportable fringe benefits amounts on an ongoing basis, or you can enter them in at the end of the financial year. To do this, you'll need to click on the pencil icon, enter in the amount, and then just click on the tick. The last option here is final. This is the option that should be used if there are no further payments to be made to this employee during the financial year. Like I mentioned before, this employee here was terminated in the pay run. So any employees that have been terminated through the pay run, their is final option will be ticked automatically. If the employee hasn't been terminated in a pay run, but there are no further payments to be made to the employee during that financial year, you can manually tick that option from this point. The last thing we'll have a look at on this page before we actually lodge the pay event with the ATO is the actions options. If you click on this button, there are a few other options that you have access to. The first one is Excel. This will allow you to generate an Excel report of all the data that's included in this pay event. The next option, Mark All as Final. This should be used if there are no further payments to be made this financial year to all of the employees included in the pay event. The next option, which is Mark All as Not Final, will only appear if there are employees included in this pay event that have previously been marked as final. Selecting this option will reverse that action. Then we have Add Employee. This option will only appear if there has been an employee that has been excluded from the pay event due to invalid data. You will remember earlier on the Warnings tab, we did have an employee with invalid data that had been excluded from this pay event. The employee down here has a tax file number recorded that is invalid. If we go back to the Lodgement Details page and back into the Actions tab and down to the Add Employee option, we can try and add this employee back into the pay event. However, you can only add employees back into the pay event once the validation errors have been corrected. So if I try to add this employee back in now, before I've corrected the validation errors, the system will tell me that the employee could not be added. So we'll need to go back to that Warnings tab, into the employee's record on the tax file declaration page, and enter in a valid tax file number for this employee. Save that information, and then when we go back to the pay event page, we can go back into the Actions button and down to the Add Employee option, and then try and add this employee again. This time, the employee has been added because the validation errors have been corrected. And you can see here, the employee is now back into the pay event. The last option on the Actions button is Refresh Data. This will refresh all the data contained in a pay event. For example, if you need to unlock a pay run for which a pay event has already been created, and you've made changes to an employee's payment details, you can finalise that pay run again, select the option to lodge the pay run at a later date, and then you can come back to the original pay event that was created and refresh the data within this pay event. Now that we've covered everything on the Create Pay Event Lodgement screen, all we need to do now is lodge the pay event with the ATO. To do this, you have an option down on the right-hand side here, Lodge with the ATO. If you click on that, this will give you a Lodge Pay Event pop-up screen. In here, you'll have a declaration that you'll need to read. You'll need to tick this box to authorise the lodgement, and then you can simply click on Lodge Pay Event. The pay event will then be submitted to the ATO, where it will await a response. The status of the pay event will change during this process from created to either submitting or queued for submission. This may take a few minutes, so you can leave this page if you need to. If you have navigated away from the Lodge Pay Event page, you can get back to it by going to the Reports tab and then Single Touch Payroll. Here you will see a list of all the pay events. Each pay event has some detail, like the date and the pay schedule. You can also see the status of the pay event. If the pay event still hasn't been processed, the status will show awaiting ATO processing. You can click on the pay event ID to open it. Once the pay event has been submitted to the ATO and a response received, the system will update the status again to either successful or failed. If the pay event has failed, there will be an error message with a reason for the failure. If you require any further assistance with these error messages, we have an article that you can search for from the support widget, which is called STP, Resolving Common Issues. That article has a list of all the common errors that may occur and the instructions on how to fix those errors. If the pay event has been successful, however, this is what it will look like. So you can see here that the status of the pay event is now showing as successful. If you then go back to the Single Touch Payroll page, you'll see the list of pay events, and you'll see here the different types of status that are showing. Now that your pay event has been successfully lodged with the ATO, we can go back to the payroll dashboard and then down to the Pay Runs tab, where you can see a list of all the pay runs that have been processed in the file. You've now got a little icon that's next to the pay run, which will indicate as to whether or not the pay event has been successfully lodged with the ATO. So you can see with a little cloud with a tick in it, this means that this pay run has been lodged with the ATO. Then if you've got a little red cloud with an arrow in it, this means that the pay run lodgement to the ATO has failed. If you actually click into the pay run as well, you can check the lodgement status from here as well. You've now got a fourth tab in the pay run, which says Lodgement Status. And if you click on that tab, this will show you the details of the lodgement status. Just the same as if we were to click into the one that had failed, the lodgement status is showing that there's an error for this pay run. So remember, if you need any further assistance with configuring your payroll file for Single Touch Payroll, you can go back to the first video in our series, or you can go to the next video in the series, which is creating and lodging an update event. And as always, if you require any further assistance, our support email is support@yourpayroll.com.au.